Adrian Holloway folded his glasses slowly before he looked up at me. "According to everything I see here," he said, "you own nothing." The words landed flat in that quiet office. Declan did not look at me. He touched his cufflinks, one then the other, and said, "I told you. You have no leverage." I said nothing. I looked at the papers already stacked on the desk, already prepared, as if my presence had never been required. A folder sat closed at the edge of the table, corners squared, ready before I had even walked in. I thought about how we got here. Every large purchase in our marriage went through his name only. He called it simpler accounting. When I asked about our finances, he answered in front of guests that I never loved numbers. At a family dinner once, he joked that I was good at spending his money, and his relatives laughed around the table like it was nothing. I kept working. I kept paying for groceries and utilities, certain that this was what partnership looked like. I did not know I was financing my own erasure. I remember the drawer where I kept my journal, the one with the silver bookmark my mother gave me before she died. After every humiliating conversation, I opened that journal and straightened the bookmark until its edge sat flush with the page. It was a small motion. It was the only thing in my life I could still make perfectly even. Harold, Declan's father, had come to a dinner months earlier and mentioned, almost carelessly, that he had helped set up some of Declan's holdings years back. He wiped his pocket watch with a handkerchief while he said it, slow circles over the glass, and moved on to another topic before I could ask a real question. I filed it away without understanding why it mattered. Naomi Ellis was recommended to me by a coworker who had gone through her own divorce 2 years before. I did not call her yet. Not that week. I sat in the lawyer's office across from Adrian and Declan, absorbing the sentence "you own nothing," and I drove home in silence. I parked in the driveway of a house I had helped clean, helped decorate, helped make into something warm, and I sat there until the engine ticked cool. At home, Declan barely looked up from his phone, muttering something about dinner and a call with a colleague. I said nothing back. Upstairs, I opened my journal and straightened the silver bookmark, and for the first time the gesture did not calm me. It made me angry in a way I had not let myself feel in years. The pattern had built for a decade. Every ledger, every account, every deed carried his name, and only his name. When friends asked about our finances at parties, he would laugh and say I preferred not to worry about all that. I used to smile along. I had convinced myself that trust did not need paperwork. I was wrong about that, and I would learn exactly how wrong within days. 3 days after that meeting with Adrian, Declan rushed to catch a flight for work. He had been finishing an electronic signature on some documents that morning, working against the clock before his car arrived. He left his tablet on the kitchen counter, screen still unlocked from the signing session. I was clearing plates when I noticed the light still glowing under his elbow print. I picked it up only because I thought I should lock it before I left for work myself. The screen showed an email from a private banker. Attached to it was a list of assets. I saw the name of a company I had never heard him mention in 12 years of marriage. Below it sat details of an expensive house, held through something called an LLC, a name I did not recognize either. My hands went cold before my mind caught up. I did not open any other folder. I did not touch a single file. I took one photograph of the screen, just the screen, and set the tablet back exactly where it had been. I needed only one fact to be true. He had hidden a significant part of what we owned, and he had done it while telling me I owned nothing. The email showed a specific valuation for the house and a company registration number tied to the LLC. I stared at those 2 details longer than I stared at anything else that morning. A number can feel abstract until it sits next to a name, and then it becomes a fact you cannot unsee. I went to work that day and functioned normally, or close enough. I answered emails. I sat through a meeting about quarterly targets. Nobody around me could have guessed that something inside my life had just cracked open. That evening, I did not confront Declan. I did not ask a single question about his trip. I only watched him more carefully than I had in years. I called Naomi Ellis the following week. She listened without interrupting while I described the photograph, the LLC, the valuation. When I finished, She pulled a legal pad toward her and underlined a single line with a green marker, precise and unhurried. "This is concealment of marital assets during divorce proceedings," she said. "We can work with this." From that point forward, I told no one else. Not my sister, not my closest friend, not even my own mother, who had passed years before, but whose voice still lived in my head whenever I doubted myself. I built everything quietly, one piece at a time, the way you build a wall nobody notices until it is already standing. I opened a separate account using only my salary. The deposits changed quietly, and Declan never noticed, because he assumed my paycheck still landed where it always had. I interviewed for a new position with a company led by Monica Shaw, scheduling every meeting during hours Declan believed I was still at my old job. Monica set a black pen perfectly parallel to the edge of her desk before she offered me the role, and I remember thinking that precision suited the moment. I signed a lease on a small apartment through an online agreement sent to a personal email address Declan had never seen. Naomi filed a motion in court requesting full financial disclosure, and every document related to that motion went straight to her office, never to our house. None of it touched our shared mailbox. None of it touched our shared life in any way he could trace. Meanwhile, Declan only sensed that something had shifted. I stopped arguing about small things. I stopped demanding answers he would never give honestly. His confidence, once so total, began curdling into something closer to nerves. He started checking our joint accounts more often. He asked strange, testing questions at dinner, watching my face for a reaction I refused to give him. I answered him calmly every time, short sentences, nothing more. Once he tried to slip back into his old rhythm, telling me not to worry about finances, that he handled all that. I said, sure, and turned back to the dishes. He had built his entire identity on being the one who always knew more than everyone else in the room. He would not know for months. Iris Bennett worked in accounting at Declan's company. Naomi's team subpoenaed records, and during a routine deposition, Iris confirmed, almost in passing, that the company on that private banker's email had indeed passed through her department's books for years. She sipped mint tea from a thermal cup while she said it, unaware of how much weight her small confirmation carried. I kept my new employee badge tucked inside the interior pocket of my bag, never left at home, never risked. Every step forward depended on nobody at home noticing a single thread out of place. I moved through those months like someone walking across ice, testing each footing before trusting it with my full weight. Some nights I sat alone in my unfurnished apartment, just a mattress and a lamp and my journal on the floor beside me. I would straighten the silver bookmark and feel more at peace in that empty room than I had felt in a fully furnished house for a decade. By the 5th month, Naomi told me the court had scheduled a final hearing. The judge had reviewed enough preliminary evidence to compel a full accounting of assets. That accounting would include the LLC, the house, and any other holdings connected to that private banker's records. I remember hanging up the phone and sitting very still, feeling something settle in my chest that had not settled in years. The hearing took place on a gray morning in a courtroom that smelled faintly of old paper and coffee. Declan sat beside Adrian, cufflinks straight, posture rigid. Harold sat 2 rows back, polishing his watch with the same handkerchief he always carried, though his hands moved slower than usual that day. Bank representatives sat further back, quiet, waiting for their turn to speak. Naomi opened her folder and lifted the green marker one more time, drawing a line beneath entries where assets had never been declared. A large screen at the front of the courtroom displayed bank statements, the LLC registration, and records of the house purchase, one after another, in plain black text nobody could argue with. Iris sat in the gallery, thermal cup resting on her knee, and when called, she set it down on the small table before the witness stand and confirmed again, this time under oath, that the company had existed and moved money through her department for years. Her voice was steady. She had nothing to gain by lying and nothing to lose by telling the truth. Harold wiped his watch once more, slower this time, and said nothing when the judge asked whether he had assisted in structuring any of the holdings shown on the screen. His silence answered the question almost as clearly as words would have. Declan looked at his father for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted, as if a wall he had trusted his whole life had just cracked. Adrian did not repeat his earlier claim that I own nothing. He sat with his glasses folded in his lap, saying very little, offering only procedural objections that the judge overruled one after another. For the first time since that first meeting, Declan looked lost, his certainty gone, his cufflinks untouched. After the documents were shown, the judge asked the court clerk to record the newly disclosed list of assets into the official record. The room went quiet in a way that felt different from the silence at the start of all this, a silence built from facts instead of intimidation. 6 months later, the court issued its final ruling. The hidden assets, the LLC, the house, all of it was declared marital property, and I was granted my share according to the law Naomi had underlined on that very first day in her office. I sat through the reading of the ruling without moving, without crying, simply listening to years of dismissiveness dissolve into a single legal sentence. After the hearing ended, Declan caught up with me in the hallway outside the courtroom. He looked smaller than I remembered him being, though nothing about his height had changed. He said, "We can still work something out," his voice low, almost pleading in a way I had never heard from him before. I looked at him and said, "You had leverage. Now I have a court ruling." I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. I opened my journal, straightened the silver bookmark until its edge sat perfectly flush, and closed it again. Then I walked away without looking back, my footsteps even and unhurried down that long hallway. Truth does not always arrive quickly, but when it arrives with documents behind it, nobody can shout it down anymore. He did not follow me any further. Do you think this ending was fair to both of them? Tell me in the comments, and if this story kept you watching until the end, hit like and subscribe for more.